She's April.
And she's Molly.
And we are
the Book Besties.
With a frog in the throat. Did you guys forget about us? I bet you fuckers didn't ya?
It's like Kim Possible. Do.
Off topic. And I took my meds today.
The statement was enough. We don't need to hear Rihanna.
Welcome to the shit show, gang. I hope you like it.
We were dancing with Doug, and it was so cute.
Potato chip. Molly!
Why do I keep my hands up like this? Like, I need to keep the clap on screen for
longer than necessary. We're holding the clap, just so Tom knows. We did it, we swear, Tom.
People listening don't know what we're talking about, but Tom, my husband, our editor, asked us to clap so that he can sync our audio and video. And today I kept my hands up like, I'm going to keep him here to make sure he knew.
Because I have clapped off screen, and he's like, is Molly mad at me? No, she's just an asshole.
He needs the clap to be on screen so he can sync it, but yeah.
Oh my God, what a fucking week it's been here.
Yeah?
So let's see. Liv had back to school. I worked 2 full days. Matt started that shutdown, so he's on fucking nights. I take Piper back to the orthodontist. I've been taking her to ROTC all week. Oh, orthodontist. She got her braces off, right?
Right.
That tooth smoothing, that side crooked tooth I have.
Already?
She's had them off 2 weeks, April.
Is she wearing her retainers?
Yeah. She was wearing it extra because she's like, it feels weird. I want to make sure it stays in right. So then she came upstairs from brushing her teeth one night and she's like, it's moving. And I'm like, what? And I look, and that little tooth down at the bottom, that one that's all funky on my bottom, twisted already.
So what are they going to do? Are they going to put him back on?
So right now he's having her wear it all the time, unless she's eating all the time. And then they're hoping that the plastic, like, removable retainer will put it back. And then what they'll do is they'll go in and they'll put the permanent bar underneath because it shouldn't be doing this. He said he was really surprised, or the doctor was like shocked. Good. I was like, that's a big family for you. Expect the unexpected.
Well, I am tired today because I just worked my 7-day stretch, and so I feel exhausted. But I had a really cool program yesterday. My last day of the 7-day stretch, we're filming on a Saturday. Surprise, behind the scenes.
Shocker.
We have costume characters that we order and rent as a system, and we tend to do it like one in the fall and one in the spring. And so September is library card sign up month. So if you don't have a library card, go to your local library and sign up for a library card this month. A lot of libraries are doing special things because it's library card sign up month. And in any case, if you haven't been in a library in a while, you don't know what libraries are. We have more than just books. So
word.
But we do have the books, so you could stop buying the books.
I mean, the books are pretty great too.
The books. But anyway, so off my soapbox. So yesterday we had a character. We had Duck from the Doreen Cronin series. So like Duck for President would be the one that he's the main character. But Cows That Type was the first book in that like series. And so one of my staff members dressed up as Duck, and the kids loved it, and we were dancing with Duck, and it was so cute. So it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was a good way to wrap out the 7-day stretch, which is just so exhausting. Like that was like, okay, but I get to do this morning. So that was
right. It's something to look forward to.
That was the most complicated costume I've ever had to put someone in. It took 3 of us to put my staff member in the costume.
It just looked like a hat, a helmet, and a body.
No. There was like a rucksack, like bars, like you would use for like a camping backpack or like a military backpack. Yeah, you had to like strap the person in. There was like a halo that had to be fitted inside it to keep the head up. It was really complicated. There were fans in it, so it wasn't an inflatable one, but they wanted to keep Duck puffed out a little bit, so there were fans. There was a hula hoop in it. It was like crazy.
That's adorable, but also I can't imagine being the body in that. I
Yeah,
bet he was. That
my
person was
my staff member
sweaty.
who did it was really warm and worn out after.
Yeah, I
But
bet.
I'm very thankful for that staff member. It was cool.
I'm
Yeah.
sure the kids loved it. I'm
They
sure the kids
really
loved it.
did. They really did. So,
Yeah. You know it's not cool? How this book made me feel this week.
oh, yeah. Let's talk about this book. So, this week we read Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. Um,
Rude. That's all I'm going to say about this book. Rude.
um, and do you want me to do a synopsis?
I would love a synopsis.
All right. Under the Whispering Door is about the death of Wallace Price and the life he finds when his physical life ends. In this found family trope fantasy novel, Wallace meets May, a reaper, Hugo, a ferryman, Nelson, a fellow ghost and Hugo's grandfather, and Atlas, a ghost dog, at Karen's Crossing Tea Shop, which is a way station to the afterlife. Wallace spent his life as a heartless, miserable man who was often intentionally cruel in the name of business. But at
Facts.
Karen's Crossing, he learns the value of humanity and kindness. As Wallace begins to pour himself into this new ragtag family, he learns the truth about life, death, and the universe, and uncovers lies even Hugo believed. When the manager steps in to force Wallace to cross through the whispering door, Wallace allows himself the chance to admit he has changed and fallen in love with Hugo, who is still very much alive. Death is just their beginning in this beautifully written novel by TJ Klune. Trigger warnings for this episode: death, sudden death, death of a parent, death of a child, death of a loved one, death of a pet, and suicide.
All
And
of
then
them.
and
Like
I want
all the dead stuff,
yeah,
babies.
and I want to read TJ Klune's author's note. This is the author's note at the front of the book. This story explores life and love as well as loss and grief. There are discussions of death in different forms, quiet, unexpected, and death by suicide. Please read with care.
Yes.
Well,
If you are in a soft spot right now and your heart is hurting, this is not the book for you, babies.
yeah. I was a little worried because when I read the author's note, it was still very fresh. My mother-in-law passing, which we talked about in the first episode, which it still is. I mean, it's not even been a month yet, but
I mean, you're still living with it. It is very
yeah,
much a daily part of your life still.
yeah. But I was nervous, but I want to get more into the conversation before I just like tell you that. So,
The feels. Got it.
yeah, this is our second time reading TJ Klune.
Mm-hmm.
His first traditionally published novel is The House on the Cerulean Sea,
Ugh.
which is a favorite for both of us. I have gone on record to say that that is my favorite book we have covered for
Done.
at all.
I agree.
It's definitely my favorite book from last year. I very much loved it. And so how did you feel like this novel, his second traditionally published novel, measured up?
I mean, I was really excited because I fell in love with TJ as an author, as a narrator, as just a creative person in
Yeah.
Cerulean. And when this first started up, I was like, oh, this isn't what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And I put an expectation out there. So that was on me, not him as an author, right?
Yeah.
As I got further into, I struggled at first, and you and I had a whole conversation about this via text. It just wasn't feeling like him. And the more I got into it, and the more I started listening to it, and the more like I was in the groove of the book, I saw him again. I saw TJ. I saw his words.
Yeah.
Like he hit a pace, and I was like, "Oh, this is TJ."
Yeah.
He definitely has a voice. He has his own style. That
Yeah.
is for sure. There is
Yeah.
this touch of whimsy in his writing that you don't
Right.
get a lot with other writers. So
Yeah.
he is definitely his own person. But this was unexpected.
Yeah.
This was a lot heavier. This was a lot more
Yeah.
intense
Yeah.
than, I mean, theirs was some intensity in
Yeah.
Cerulean Sea, but not in the way this book holds up life and death.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I didn't really know what this book was about. I
Uh-huh.
knew it was TJ Klune, and because we liked House on the Cerulean Sea first, which we actually, it was a fan suggestion, and Yeah.
Leslie, who came
Keep
on.
suggesting we do the fan suggestions, and you hosted that one.
Mm-hmm.
But I really wanted to read another TJ Klune, so I threw this one on. I didn't know it was about death. But I have to say, for me, it had a little slow start. So House on Cerulean Sea was a solid 5 for me. Like, that was a 5 out of 5. This one, because of the slower start, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I maybe could argue 4.5, but I feel like the slow start really was a lot. It was very heavy-handed in the beginning.
It was a 3.5 for me, just of how slow it was.
Really?
Yeah,
But
I like his writing. It's
but I
missing elements of him.
I really fell in love with the characters, and I fell in love with the story. And I mean, I know I texted you pretty early on, and I was like, this is going to be another
It's
ghost
gonna be
falling in love
rough.
with a living person.
I mean, I think that's our niche now. Ghost romance.
We've only done one other ghost romance. That was
See? We have a
Dead
niche.
Romantic.
There's 2.
I don't think that 2 counts as a niche.
Have we read anything else that is back to back like that? That's similar.
Molly, we read Dead Romantics a whole season ago.
Okay, but we did do vampire books. We did do 2 vampire books.
We did 2 vampire books?
Discovery of Witches and Twilight.
Yeah, I always forget that Discovery Witches has a vampire in it.
They don't sparkle either.
Yeah,
Deb will tell you that herself.
I know. All right, so
Okay.
yeah, I felt like it did have a slow start, but I felt like I don't know what word I want to use here, but there's
Potato
a
chip.
care, huh?
Potato chip.
It's not that. And that's 2 words, but it's not that. The care that TJ Klune takes with his characters, and this is the second book we read by him, and they were both found family tropes, and like the care that he takes within that trope, I just feel like for me, I want to read everything he writes.
Okay, totally off topic, but
I
want to be in his therapy sessions. If he is writing found family so hard, what is TJ looking for in life? Sweetie, what's going on? Do you want to talk? We're here for you.
All right. This book is heavy on death and afterlife, and we've talked a lot on here about our personal religious beliefs. So I think it's worth talking about that some more because of how this book handles death.
Well, and you and I
religion.
interpret, yeah. We interpret it differently. Yeah.
Right. So what did you feel about the portrayal of the afterlife here, and how did you feel it compared to your personal beliefs?
I like this. And here's why. TJ, his audience, his preferred audience, the direction he's shooting for isn't us. He wants those youngers, right? Like,
I mean, he writes adult fiction. It's not YA.
I don't know. My kids love it. Like, their generation loves his shit. Like, anyway, that's not the point. Not my fucking point.
They just like that there's queer books, and I do too.
Like, right. Not my fucking point. Off topic. And I took my meds today.
I watched her take her meds today. That's what's annoying right now.
For both of us. And Katie. I had 3 adults paying attention to me. Okay, so here's the deal. I like the conversation about what's after. Because my struggle with that part of faith is literally that word, right? Faith. You have to have undying faith and that there is something beyond the after, right? And all of these characters, they had physical evidence of the faith, right? They literally walk up to this door and they can hear the voices. And that's beautiful to me, right? That gives them hope at the end.
Yeah.
And there is this, my problem is, are we going to talk about the stabbing victim?
Yes.
Okay, I will talk about it then. But my problem is life is more like that for me and not with the faith side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm more used to being alone, dying in an alley, not voices lifting me up, bringing me home.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. So if you haven't read this book, you should. But if you haven't read this book, the concept is that when you die, a reaper, in our case it's May, comes and retrieves your spirit.
Who I want Awkwafina to play, by the way. When this movie comes out, I don't know why, but I want Awkwafina to be May. She needs to be.
Tall. She's too tall.
No, I want it. I want it. I'm making it happen. I don't know how. Aquafina for May.
Okay.
Hashtag.
Okay. Anyway, so May comes and reaps your ghost. They don't say spirit, they say ghost. And she brings you to a way station. The Reaper brings you to a way station. And in this case, the way station is the Karen's Crossing tea shop. Mm-hmm. And Hugo is a ferryman. And the fairy people, not fairy like fae. It's not like Akatar.
He doesn't have wings, gang.
It's fairy as in like boat. And they are to guide the ghost to going through the door, which leads to not heaven, but they call it everything. So it's an afterlife, but they say it's not heaven. That's a human construct, and God is not. God is a human concept as well. So for me, and this was part of the reason why I found the beginning slow, because they're setting up all of that, and it is counter to my beliefs. So what I believe as a Christian is when we die, your spirit goes to one of two places, and that depends on decision that you made in life. I think that they've sort of made the way station kind of like purgatory, but they also say purgatory is a human concept, and purgatory isn't something that people believe anymore. It was a Catholic belief that is no longer a part of the Catholic belief system. But if you want to read a really good book about that, that's classic lit, I highly recommend Dante's Inferno, the Divine Comedy in general. That is one of my favorite ancient lits. But anyway, so for me, because it was counter to what I believe, I found that hard. I don't believe in ghosts. I believe in spirits.
Oh, I do.
And I definitely think that there are evil and good spirits and that they remain here, but I don't think of them as like dead people who are still around.
Oh no, I definitely believe that there are just like leftover human entities, ghosts, spirits, whatever you want. I mean, I've seen it personally.
No, I feel like those spirits that we think are ghosts are not actually human, that they're demonic or angelic or some sort of other that's not human. But it doesn't matter. For me, that took a bit to swallow. But then I got kind of the point. The point was that he needed to change. He needed to be better.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the point, right? We all, to ascend on, to move on, we all need to be better beings. We need to be better.
And it's not a new concept for pop culture to have a second chance
trope. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not uncommon. There are plenty of movies where, I mean, Ghost, for crying out loud. Patrick Swayze literally plays a ghost.
Heaven on Earth with Chris Rock, where...
Yeah, exactly.
Like we could go on.
Examples.
Tons of them.
So it's not like this is like a new concept. It just was a different way of it being handled.
And do you know what Dean Moore's character name was in Ghost? Molly! I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
No. Okay, anyways, continuing on.
All right, so Wallace and Hugo find love in a hopeless place. Did you feel
love okay.
No. The statement was enough. We don't need to hear Rihanna. Did you feel...
Yes, her name was Molly. Thank you. I was right going on.
Oh my gosh. Did you feel their love story was necessary to the overall plot of this book, or was this just trying too hard to recreate the magic of House on Cerulean Sea? I guess we know Molly's answer.
It's cute. It's adorable. I loved it. I'm so glad they found fucking love. But we don't need a goddamn love story. We don't need a goddamn love story.
Yeah.
We needed Wallace to figure out his shit so he could move on to the other side. Right?
Yeah.
That's the whole point of this.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't end up being the point.
I get it. Like, what's his face was sad and lonely, even though he had his family in May, and I get it. And the hook and the chord is the symbolism of finding your person and whatever. Like,
are you quacking? Do you want me to do the goat?
Blah, blah, blah. it's like a blah, blah, blah. It's like a blah, blah, blah kind of thing. Blah, 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 you know, like, ugh.
I didn't think it was necessary either, and that was also my complaint about the House of the Cerulean Sea. Like, I didn't
But
feel
I
like
feel like it fit better there.
Yeah.
This felt more forced.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we have to purposely make it known Wallace is bi, right? Like, we have to take the time and add that note in, and like, he already had a fucking hard time at life being a dickhead. Did he really need to be a bisexual?
So I have a question about representation a little bit later, so hold on to that thought. But I didn't think it was necessary to the story. I don't think Hugo needed to fall in love with him. I don't care that Hugo is gay. I don't care that Wallace was bi. They could have been friends. Like straight people can be friends. Gay people can be friends too. They don't all just want to fuck each other. Like,
I mean,
it's not how that works.
That's how any of this works. But I mean, there is a group of queers out there right now who are fucking just because they can. So,
well, there are a group of straights out there doing the same thing. So,
yeah, they usually like to have pineapple as decor for their home, though.
That's creepy. Okay.
Totally not. We are not doing great today. April, we are 20 fucking minutes in.
I think this is probably going to be one of our worst episodes ever.
Welcome to the shit show, gang. I hope you like it.
This is bad, like first season bad. Gosh.
I'm here for the chaos. We need it. You and I deserve a chaos episode.
Somebody send us some positive, positive memes or something, because this is going downhill real quick.
Okay, what question were we on?
4. Wallace in his human life was very unlikable. The book actually starts with him heartlessly and unnecessarily firing his assistant, the day before he dies of a heart attack. Further, only 4 people show up to his funeral, and none of them seem to actually have good things to say about him. Do you like Wallace's redemption arc, or was it too cliche and predictable?
I liked it. And I'm going to defend that answer by saying that, 1, it wasn't instantaneous. Mm-hmm. Okay. And usually in redemption arcs and that kind of bullshit, they fucking do a whole montage of them becoming better and then instantly the rest of the book. He didn't do that. He gave Wallace time, and I liked that. 2, not everybody liked Wallace, and Wallace didn't like everybody at the house. That was a big one, right? Not everybody was fucking welcoming. I mean, the granddad was heckling him constantly, giving him a hard time, you know? So it really
Granddad was trying to shape him up to be good for his
Right. I mean, he just wanted to go home. I mean, let's not lie. Granddad was tired.
I felt that his redemption arc was good too. Like, I definitely, and I agree with you on what you've defended. I don't think it was cliche or predictable. I think it could have been. In some ways it was predictable. Like, I kind of figured he'd get a redemption. Like, what the fuck is the point of the story otherwise? But
he could have written this way more cliche. Yeah, this could have been cheesy and gross. And he took time to make thoughtful moves. He took time to write thoughtful stories in.
And it was a process. And I think what we get is, we're going to talk about him a little bit later, but we have a different person whose name is Alan, who comes to the Karen's Crossing as well. Kron's Crossing. I don't know why I keep saying Karen. Kron's Crossing. And Alan's story is the counter of Wallace's. He doesn't get the redemption, but Wallace works really hard for that. And he's not doing it for any reason other than he wants to help. Like, he's gotten to the point where he wants to make things better. Like, he realizes, I was a dick.
Yeah.
Both Klune books we've read have the found family trope, and I know we both enjoy that trope. So how do you feel the trope did in this novel?
This was like a bunch of college kids finding their people. You know, this wasn't while it is a found family, it was like like House Bunny or any of the sorority movies, you know what I mean? Where like
Mhm.
it's all the outcasts and they find each other and they
Mhm.
live happily ever after.
Yeah.
That was the, it feels like the inspo for this, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you got the jokester, you got the one that's sensitive, you got the one that has, you know, mental health issues, you have the one that's an asshole. Like they all filled little tropes in
Yeah.
he played chess well.
I think it was well written. It's one that like I feel like could have gone off the rails. You have these
Mm-hmm.
very different personalities, and
Yeah,
I think
it
he
could have
handled
gotten
it very
dark.
well. Yeah,
He could have
and I
definitely
don't.
wrote that darker, and he
And it,
didn't.
yes, and it wasn't insta love either. It wasn't like Hugo and Wallace loved each other from day one.
They
And
didn't just
it
lock eyes and
right,
become.
right. Like, why are you dead? Like, it wasn't that. And
Oh
May's
no, my betrothed.
right. And May's character could have very easily just been the Reaper who
A
provides comic
cliche.
relief occasionally, but she wasn't. There was a depth to her story. We learn her story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, there's just layers to this that like I feel that I didn't expect. I didn't expect that. So Nelson and Atlas are anomalies in Chiron's crossing. They have
Yeah.
chosen to remain ghosts and not go through the whispering door. They have both stayed for Hugo, sorry. What do you think of them as companions to Hugo even in death?
Um, I think they both stay out of obligation,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's kind of sad,
Yeah.
and it's heartbreaking because Wallace, like, he not Wallace. What is his name?
Nelson? Hugo?
Nelson. Hugo knows it, and it makes him heartbroken
Right.
because he knows they're not moving on. But
Right.
at the same time, he can't go anywhere, so he can't really get his own people to bring back to there. So like,
Yeah.
they're all stuck. Their lives were stuck. They actually needed this change,
Yeah.
that came with him.
I thought it was an interesting choice to have Atlas stay because there's no other animals. They didn't even know what happened to animals until Atlas
Mm-hmm.
comes. But Nelson, for me, this is interesting because, and I feel like this is a mistake that TJ Klune actually made. That really did a terrible job.
Try it again.
Oh my gosh.
I got you.
There we go.
There you go.
It had stuff stuck in it, so it didn't want to like ring. I'm not saying that losing your parent at any age would be easy.
No.
But Hugo was 25 when his parents died. So it's not like Nelson was raising him. Like I feel like it would have
They
been
treated it like he was a toddler.
right.
They're like, I can't leave him. Hugo is a baby. No, he's not. He's a fucking grown ass man.
Yeah, I feel like it would have been a different vibe if he were 15 or, whatever. He was a teenager and then Nelson raised him. And then it would make more sense that Nelson's wife, I don't remember what her name was, but she had already passed.
That gave me and to that story because that's just fucking up vibes.
Spouses die one and then the other. They don't often die together, Molly.
Right,
so.
But like, we had this beautiful old people live together, and then I couldn't leave because of my grandson.
Well,
look, can't leave because there's a kid I gotta take care of.
Who's 25?
Hi, I'm a junior ranger, and I'm here to help you today.
He's 25. He wasn't even a kid. But he says his wife would have understood that he had to stay for Hugo. And I'm just like, I feel like the mistake that TJ made here was that he made him too old when this happened. But I think that probably came, this is what I think. I'm going to call out the editor on this one. And that's usually your beef that you usually say the author isn't to blame, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to call out the editor on this one because I have a feeling that the original story, Hugo was younger. And the editor said, so now Hugo isn't old enough for Wallace. So you have to figure out.
You have to pick one.
Yeah.
You think he picked a storyline and just stuck to it.
And I don't think he picked the right one. I think Hugo needed to be younger.
Well, I mean, are we going to talk? I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but his use of children in inappropriate places.
Yeah, we are going to talk about it. I'm not there yet.
Keep moving on.
I also wasn't surprised that Nelson and Atlas made the decision to go through the whispering door once Hugo
at the end. No, spoiler alert.
that once,
they knew he
stupid
was
life
safe and
settled.
sound and everything was
Yeah.
just magically perfect and everybody lives happily ever after.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't fucking happen.
Yeah. Although I said this before, I want all the happily ever afters. I don't care how. So, all right. Speaking of Atlas failed therapy dog school.
Of course he did.
But he still provides emotional support for Hugo, who has panic attacks. When we first see Hugo have a panic attack, the scene felt so raw and real to me that I had to stop and take a breath.
Yeah.
For me, this was one of the most honest portrayals of an anxiety attack besides Randall on This Is Us. So I wondered what you thought of this addition to the book.
As a mom that has sat through several, I've been Wallace. I've been there. The sitting, the waiting, the trying to help, that feeling of helplessness in a moment when someone is spiraling to their bottoms,
right,
is one of the most difficult things.
Right.
I mean, next to the person living, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
I'm not.
No,
I'm saying this wrong.
I understand what you're saying. It felt real to me. It felt real to me. And I think that we don't often see anxiety handled the correct way, I guess, especially in pop culture, because I can think of like the example of Schitt's Creek. In the first season, David realizes that he's having panic attacks and he's like, that's not real. That's just something that PR teams use when a star needs a break, a celebrity needs a break. But anxiety is real. Like an anxiety disorder. I have an anxiety disorder. I talk about it a lot on here. I'm not ashamed of it. And I don't have panic attacks like this anymore because I'm in therapy and I take medication, but this is what it looks like for me. I can't be touched. I can't be talked to. If somebody is there, and Tom is really good about this, he'll be present without interfering. And that's what this was for me. There was a care with it. It was very sweet.
We're still kind of working that out here. It's when you're starting it fresh from the beginning with an 8-year-old, it's hard.
Yeah.
Parents of kids like mine, I see you.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
You're doing okay.
Yeah.
Just, they're going to get there. It's hard, babies.
Yeah.
Totally off topic. Speaking of books with this kind of topic, Liv's reading Turtles All the Way Down.
Well, I hope she sees herself there.
She does, and she's not happy with me about it because she's not liking how it's making her feel.
Well, definitely make sure she sees their therapist after, because that's one that is hard for me too.
I
Even
will.
Though I love that book. I love that book because of how real it is.
I told her, I go, you can start this, but you got to talk to your therapist during it. And she's like, that's okay. So.
Yeah, she needs to. All right, so May is an interesting character. We get her backstory briefly when we learn that she has always been able to see ghosts, which caused her mother to kick her out because her mother was a Chinese immigrant and wanted them to be normal Americans. Yeah. So she kicked her out because seeing ghosts was not normal and May couldn't pretend that that wasn't happening to her. So I want to know what you thought of May.
So, because this book bordered on the dark and the light, when May first started telling the story, I thought she was going to tell us that she died. Because I thought May, that she was a ghost too. I thought May had schizophrenia and then died accidentally from like one of her schizophrenic episodes. And she was talking about her mom in past tense because she doesn't get to see her mom anymore because she's a ghost. And she only gets to be human when she reaps, you know?
Yeah.
So I thought we were going that way. I'm kind of glad he didn't go that dark.
I didn't think she was human either. And when Wallace actually asked her, are you human? And she says, mostly. So I was like, what the fuck? She's not.
They live in the in-between, man.
Yeah, she is. She has like some tap on her wrist that she does. And then
she's got like a code.
Conjures up the ghost side.
You know, because magic now isn't about spells. No, we've technologized it.
It's like Kim Possible. What's the sitch, ghosts? My favorite thing about May was every single time that she was in the kitchen and they would call her out, she would come out with a knife and say, what's wrong? Are we under attack?
That I felt that was a very Molly move, by the way, because you know very well if somebody's bellowing for me and I don't come and I come running, you know I'm gonna have a weapon with me. You better not be bellowing for me like something's dying, or I'm coming with a weapon.
She also reminded me a lot of Lucy from The House on the Cerulean Sea. Like, I feel like she had a
There's a
lot
lot of
of Lucy
character
vibes.
mirroring here.
Mm-hmm.
We get a lot of characters that
She
mirror each
listened to
other.
Lucy listened to like happy pop music while he was in the kitchen, and May listens to like death metal. But I don't know, they just were very similar to me. But I really liked May. I thought she was a good character. I think it's interesting that her first reaping was of Wallace.
Yeah.
So there are several side stories in this novel. Mm-hmm. So here's where we get to, if you asked, we were talking about the stabbing victim. So I've listed them all out. So we're just going to go through all of them. So the clairvoyant Desdemona. Thoughts?
I hate people like that. There are people in the real world like this that prey on the mentally not well, the mentally handicapped, the mentally ill, the people that are vulnerable, people that are heartbroken, people like.
Right.
I think there is a connection in the world on this earth between heaven, hell, afterlife, spirits, wherever the fuck you want to say. And I do believe there are certain people that do have that special connection, but I don't think it's like every fucking Tom, Dick, and Harry, you know? And for people that prey on that and take advantage of it like she did in this book, it sends that home. It reiterates, oh God, people are nasty.
And the interesting thing was, even though her clairvoyance obviously wasn't real, she got it right as to where to go.
I know.
She knew that Charon's Crossing had ghosts in it.
Because it has energy, right? Churches have energies. Burial grounds have energy. Significant places of worship and love and heart. There is energy in those places. Be it those that come.
She could feel that energy well enough to know it was there. She just couldn't talk to any of the ghosts.
Because she's not freaking clairvoyant.
She's not clairvoyant.
She's a stupid bitch. She needs to mind her fucking business.
Of people too. So Alan, Alan was murdered, and he comes to Charon's Crossing after Wallace.
Oh, Alan.
His story is dark
and devastating.
He tries to kill somebody as a ghost violently.
He's just so heartbroken and hurt and just everything Alan went through. I mean, we don't know his life, but what led up to that moment, probably he didn't live a great life to begin with, right? He probably made some questionable and dodgy choices. The fact that he got stabbed in an alley and nobody paid attention, he probably wasn't on a good side of town. I would be angry too, though, if I got stabbed and bled out and screamed for help and nobody came. His anger was 100% justified.
Yeah.
100% justified. His behavior towards the guy and trying to kill him, not great. But I don't know. That story really hurt me.
She means the health inspector.
Yeah. By guy, I mean the health inspector. But like, I don't know. It was rough.
It was rough. Okay. Have you ever seen The Sixth Sense?
Yes.
Okay. You know, Mark Wahlberg's
Donnie. Yes.
No. Is it Donnie that's in the movie?
Donnie plays the crazy motherfucker.
That is the person. His character there was who I pictured as Alan. I know that guy was alive. That he, but
if you really want to fuck yourself up, guys, realize that one of the new kids on the block is part of one of the biggest cinematic spoilers of all time. Mm-hmm. A new kid on the block.
Yeah.
And now he plays a cop on TV.
Well, Justin Timberlake played a kidnapper and murderer in a movie too. So.
He was also on the Mickey Mouse Club first. He was an actor before he was a singer.
So that also means that he's going to be a murderer.
100%.
Look, NSYNC is coming back. And let me just tell you.
NSYNC's coming back.
I am going to that concert. I saw them at their last world tour, and I'm going. If they go,
I never got to go to any of those kind of things because I was kept in Nichols.
Well, because
the world is safe in Nichols.
My grandmother bought me a ticket. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to go. But it was amazing, and I was in the 4th row.
Yeah. You know what? I got to go, you know what, my graduation here. You know what? Side story. Let's have a little Molly history, shall we?
Molly, we don't have time for Molly history.
Oh, it's a quick story. The first and only concert I went to with my birth father was Creed for my graduation present. Do you know what the man did? He sat 4 spots away from me on the hill and smoked a joint and acted like he wasn't smoking a joint.
Cool.
Family.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the book.
Concert stories.
Alan ends up having a violent outburst and kills the health inspector, but the manager shows up. We'll talk about the manager in a second, but manager shows up and he unkills him.
Yeah.
Re-alives him and
reanimates? There it is.
I don't know.
Resurrects.
And he forces Alan.
I'm alive!
He forces Alan through the whispering door.
Yeah.
While
Not the first
Alan
person in that house.
Weird paralyzed state, as is Hugo, May, and Nelson and Atlas, and the only person that isn't is Wallace. All right, so Nancy and Leah. So Nancy was the mother of Leah, and Leah died of, I think, cancer.
Cancer, yeah.
And she came to Chiron's Crossing
naturally.
That she would. I think the previous Reaper raped her, and then there was somebody before May, and then some sort of energy that she was sending out alerted Nancy to where her spirit was.
Yeah.
And Nancy went batshit crazy, called the cops, said that they were holding her daughter.
Because my kid's here, I could feel it.
Well,
I know my child's here.
For part of the time she was there, and then
I know that's the scary shit. Like,
yeah,
I know my kid's here. I can sense her. Fucking give me my kid. That broke my heart.
So Leah is forced through the door. The old Reaper drags her through the door.
What a piece of shit.
And that is when the manager unalives that Reaper and replaces him with May, because that's not how things work. The people have the choice for when they go through the door. But Nancy keeps coming back every day and sits down with Hugo, and Desdemona has taken advantage of her and convinced her that she's going to help her communicate with her daughter, and it's a whole thing. This story made me really sad.
Oh, it broke my heart.
It made me really
sad. My heart. I mean, and
child death, that to me is like, it's not something I can deal with. I used to watch the show Law and Order SVU. It was my favorite show. When I had James, I watched the first episode of the season after James was born, and then I haven't watched it since then. Because I was like, I'm terrified now. Yeah. Like, this is too personal.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I
don't know. I've dealt with childhood cancer in my family. So it touched home here. Gratefully, my niece is well and healthy and happy and in kindergarten and having a great life, cancer-free. But this just, we've had childhood cancer in my family. We've had children die in my family. It struck home, and it's realistic. You feel that pull. A mother knows when where their child is. We know our kids. That is one thing we know for sure. We can tell you when it's raining because it's fucking falling on our head. We know the ground's below our feet because we feel it. We know where our kids are because we can feel them in here. And for that woman to feel that mad, Hugo showed such grace with this woman. Such grace with this woman. Because he could have just been like, hey, batshit crazy lady, get out of my tea shop. You called the fucking cops.
Instead, every day he made her tea and sat with her and told her, whenever you're ready. Yeah. That was a good part of the story.
Oh, like I can feel that, like that hollow in my belly. Like,
and Nancy was part of the redemption arc for Wallace as well. So, all right. So the previous Reaper, we've talked about him a little bit. The previous Reaper isn't just involved with Leah. There's another character, Cameron, which I guess we can talk about the two of them together. Yeah. So Cameron is what is called a husk. So he didn't stay in Chiron's Crossing. And so because he left the security and attachment to Hugo, he basically becomes zombie-like. He's a
like
creature,
a
not human anymore.
it's like kind of like what the Jabberwocky. That's like how I'm like picturing it.
Mm,
All black, shrouded, like
mm.
big and monstrous with like gaping, like just
Yeah.
you
So
know.
the previous Reaper is really to fault for Cameron running
Yeah.
away. So
Yeah.
Cameron runs away because, and we get Cameron's whole story, which is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron was a gay man, and when his partner died, he went into a deep depression and committed suicide. And the previous Reaper basically told him he didn't deserve to be at Kayron's Crossing because he didn't respect life. So he should just not be there. And that's why Cameron ran
How did
away.
that guy make it through Reaper School, man?
I don't know. He was bad news, but the manager unalived him, so he has been.
Y'all need to like do better jobs
Mm,
checking the credentials of your Reapers. I'm just saying.
right, right, right. And so now let's talk about the manager.
I bought him that shirt, by the way. He is cute like his auntie.
The Reaper is represented as like what, like a 7 or 8 year old kid,
Yeah. It's my
and
nephew.
I
Liam. It's fine.
I felt like that decision was so utterly motherfucking creepy, and it was brilliant.
That's the point.
Yeah,
It's
another
like,
example of where like Lucy came in.
right. Like, that was the point, though, right? If it was some man in a suit and a top hat and, like, he was just like, here, you'd be like, yeah, of course, he's a skeezy old guy. But
Right,
a kid that you thought just came off a playground is your fucking
right.
guy, that's scary as shit,
And
man.
that's not his true form, right? So his true
Mm-mm.
form was some sort of like
Deer?
horse, horse with crazy horns, or maybe it was a deer. Was it a
It was
deer?
a deer. It was like a stag with like
Yeah,
flowers blooming off his fucking shit, and he's just like,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
It reminded me a lot of Shadow and Bone series. The
I was thinking about Harry Potter and the
Yeah, but I
Patronuses.
never
You
think
know.
about Harry Potter. So
I mean, of course you don't.
I had a full-on debate with one of our teen volunteers yesterday about Harry Potter.
About Harry Potter.
Yeah, he is
About
such a
what?
fan of Harry Potter, and I was like, I'm gonna keep going. You are not gonna win this because I have been debating literature a lot longer than you've been alive, baby doll.
And did you go? My best friend loves Harry Potter, and she still can't beat me. So best wishes, bitches.
I did not, but yes, we had a really good conversation. Um, anyway,
Yeah. Anyways,
he told me I shouldn't work here. I didn't deserve my job.
you know what? If you don't love, you know what? I stamp of approval, son. Stamp of
I told him I
approval.
understood it is sacrilege for a children's librarian to not like Harry Potter. All right, so last question, and I have a little background before I
Okay.
really get into this. So, the last thing I want to talk about is the diversity and inclusion in this book.
Mm-hmm.
It includes acknowledgments. So, I know you don't always read the author's
Yeah.
acknowledgments, but I usually do. I love them. He talked about his sensitivity readers. So, they gave him pointers on making the characters of color more authentic.
Hmm.
May is Chinese, Hugo and Nelson are Black, and Wallace is bisexual. And so, I wondered how you thought diversity was included handled in this book and if you thought that he got it right.
So I want to divide it racial and queer because I think one fit naturally, one didn't. Okay. With talking about Hugo and his grandfather and their family felt natural. May felt natural. It was a part of her story. But shoving in that Warren?
Wallace?
Wallace? Jesus Christ. Wallace was bi, felt forced.
Oh.
Now, I don't feel like it was a necessary part of his story. I don't feel like the queerness was a whole part of it. Like when Cameron's story came through, that felt natural. Right? That was a part. It's just it felt like TJ had to find a reason for Wallace and Hugo to be together.
So I feel like the love story wasn't necessarily like you, but I disagree that the queer representation in here was off. Like I actually wrote a note in here that along these same lines, Klune has expressed in interviews in his author's bio that as a queer person himself, he believes, quote unquote, it is important now more than ever to have accurate and positive queer representations in stories. And when we talked about Cerulean Sea, we talked about how this was such a different queer novel because it wasn't a romance story. And I actually think that the romance between Hugo and Wallace takes away from the queer story.
Right. And
even though they are
think
a queer partnership, because I think Cameron's story was
I think Cameron's story was enough. Right,
but
Hugo definitely could have been queer.
The central characters queer too,
right? And I don't think he wrote them wrong. I don't think that they represented their queerness wrong. Yeah. I just think the romance was not necessary.
Yeah,
and shoving that queerness in there and forcing a queer romance in this story made the queerness like it just felt redundant.
Yeah,
you know,
I didn't think that the romance was needed, but I didn't mind Wallace being queer too.
And I'm a bi, so I can say that about a bi.
Okay, well,
I stick my tongue out.
I'm hetero.
Raspberry.
I still feel it was a good representation.
Oh, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to TJ, homie.
Okay. Well, I think
because he listens, obviously.
I think that when people talk about queer books, they are only talking about romance. And as a librarian for children, as a former high school English teacher, what I love about the current market is that there are queer stories being told, because I fully believe that queer stories have saved lives, that seeing representation of themselves, it's made a difference in people's lives. This is a story where I feel like you could give it to anyone who says, well, I don't want to read a gay book.
It's not a gay book.
This book, and this is not a gay book. This is a book that has queer characters in it. It's not the same. No. And I really enjoy that he writes fantasy with queer characters.
And it's not high fantasy.
No.
It's light fantasy. It's sprinkled in. It's like...
And House on the Cerulean Sea is a book that I constantly recommend to people.
Same.
Because it was just so beautiful. It didn't matter to me that there... I don't even know if we talked about this when we did that episode, but when I went to go buy that book at Barnes & Noble, it was on a Pride display. And I said, I didn't know this was a queer book. And they said, oh yeah, the main character is queer. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know. That book had all this buzz, and it wasn't the gay book.
And it's
what I like about his writing.
Yeah.
All these people that are trying to ban people by banning books, they aren't banning stuff like this because it's not love stories. And that's all I have to say about that.
And that's that, honey.
Final thoughts?
I can't wait to see what else TJ comes out with.
I know, yeah. So there's another book, something with puppets.
What? No, not puppets.
The Lives of Puppets. So I have added that to my TBR, and
not like Avenue Q. We're not talking like some crazy.
It's actually robots and androids. Found family with robots and androids.
I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt because he hasn't led us astray yet.
Well, but listen, you finished that one, and she said it was beautiful. So,
fucking A, Leslie, fine. Fine.
I don't know that we'll put it on next season. Maybe we'll wait a year. It's still in hardback, and
fine.
I prefer paperback, but
I'll think about it, Leslie.
You want to talk about what we're doing next week?
Yes, fine.
So next week we are reading this book, No One Left to Come Looking for You, by Sam Lipsyte, which is a Molly pick, and I am making her take credit for this book. She has to take credit for this book.
I'm gonna drink my tea. I'm gonna drink my tea.
We'll talk more about it next week because I've already finished it.
And I have not.
Yeah, I know.
I love you.
I don't believe you.
You absolutely fucking do. You know I fucking love you. Shut the fuck up. Fucker.
Now she's okay, well, it's better me than the fans. I guess that's it. I've posted upcoming October reads on our social media. Chessie's here next month.
Woo! I'm so excited for Chessie.
She has a recording date now, and we're working on the book.
Guys, Nikki's coming back for her own episode.
Yes, so we officially can confirm that Nikki Payne is coming in February when we do romance reads, and Addison Armstrong is coming in November.
Guys, it's a good 2 seasons.
This is a crazy good.
These next 2 seasons are going to be so bomb, man.
Yeah. I think we made the right decision to shorten our seasons and take a longer break.
Yeah.
I hope it's actually been, our streaming numbers have gone up. It's like people are trying to catch up to us now, and we're giving
Did
them
you guys forget about us? I bet you fuckers didn't you?
Guys,
it's okay.
Sorry.
We love you
I don't
too,
think I
fuckers.
can ever get her to not call you fuckers, but just
it's gender neutral.
So is bestie. So is bestie.
It doesn't sound as feminine. Ask your husband if he calls anybody bestie.
He calls Jeremy his bestie.
But that's different. Him and Jeremy are questionable. I've seen them together. Tell me I'm wrong.
I can't, because I've seen them together too.
Told you so. I love you, Tom, but it's true.
Well, they did go on a date before Tom and I met, so yeah. That's a story for another time. All right,
that's a Tom story. I ain't got nothing else. We love you, besties. Thank you for joining us.
Bye. Bye. Thank you for joining us on Book Besties. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The views discussed here are those of Molly and April and not those of anyone else. Today's book was Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. Your Book Besties are Molly Biggs and April Watkins, editing by Thomas Watkins, and music is Sleep Sweetly by Brigida. Don't forget to follow the Book Besties on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. If you'd like to contact the Book Besties, please email us at bookbestiespod@gmail.com or visit our website, bookbestiespodcast.com. Until next time, besties, get lost in your favorite book.